Welcome back to Son of Chelsea. Daniel Childs here for my team selector ahead of tomorrow night's game. Huge game at the Etihad. Chelsea facing Manchester City in the Premier League. It's a must not lose game, I think, for Chelsea, but obviously it's also not one of those games in recent years at the Etihad where a point would be a great result. It's a weird situation because obviously City's struggles this year and Chelsea struggles recently, and just the nature of where we sit in the Premier League make this, the 3 points could be golden, I think, for either team, and also psychologically damaging if they were to lose. And I think Chelsea can't really afford to lose this game. And obviously that would lead us to think that a point is satisfactory. I don't think a point would be disastrous, but I don't know, maybe you feel differently. It still is City away, but it kind of feels like one where there's an opportunity here for Chelsea to win and to get a massive win, to feel like we're back in contention, not only in control of the Champions League race, but just generally in a better mood around Chelsea. So it's a huge game, but obviously there are still some concerns around our midfield, around the selection, and around the form of some of our key players. So like, subscribe, let me know your thoughts and everything down in the comments below. So Enzo Maresca did his pre-match press conference. He was asked about the transfer news, the rumours and speculation and all of that stuff. I feel like several things about this unfortunately doesn't reflect Maresca in the best light. Some of it I understand, but some of it I don't think helps him out. Firstly, let's talk about the central midfield situation. No Romeo Lavia. Again, he's out for weeks and I don't know when we're going to see him back. And to be honest, it's hard to think and hard to argue he's going to be a big player for Chelsea this season again, because throughout the entirety of this season so far, he's been in for a couple games and then he's out for a few weeks, and he's been unable to remain fit. But then he was asked about, well, you've got that problem in central midfield. We've seen Enzo Fernandez miss a game. Are there going to be any loan recourse for central midfielders, notably Leslie Ugochukwu and Andre Santos? And he flat out rejected, basically refused and said, no, it doesn't seem to be a problem. He said there maybe is opportunities in the market and, Chelsea could actually go for someone, but it is utterly insane. That is the word I'm going to use. Just Chelsea in general, that our central midfield situation is as threadbare as it is, as problematic and as kind of edgy as it is, because if Caicedo goes down with an injury, if Fernandez goes down for longer than one or more games, we're in real trouble in that area. And I think Chelsea, like the striker area, are just taking such a huge risk and have overlooked this area in a really criminal way that they are asking for trouble. So that is the position we're in at the moment. I think Chelsea's midfield is a really weak area in terms of depth. Nothing seems to be being done proactively by the club to rectify it, and I think that says a lot. He also had comments about Robert Sanchez, and he is still defending Sanchez. He spoke about how, well, if you look at the amount of errors that Caicedo has made, the loose passes, the missed chances from Nicholas Jackson. The problem with Enzo Maresca is I think that unlike some other areas where you could argue he has been given a certain level of player and he's just going off that. So like in central midfield, he's picking the two best, Enzo and Caicedo, on a regular basis. I think most people back him for that because Lavia hasn't remained fit and there's no one really else serious to play. In goalkeeper, he is so adamant that Robert Sanchez is the right guy. And given what we have just seen in the Wolves game, but also throughout the entirety of the season, again, it's very difficult for me to sit here and defend Maresca. Now, I don't want Maresca to come out. I don't expect, it is unrealistic to expect a head coach to come out and slam his own player. That's not the point here. What makes more kind of frustration grow amongst supporters is just seeing that Sanchez is kind of just undeniably the first choice. And I think the question can be posed at how much of a say did he have in that decision over the summer? Because my big fear is that I'd be fine if it's like a political game and Maresca is just defending Sanchez because behind the scenes, our sporting directors love Robert Sanchez. Ben Roberts has so much power. And that's why Robert Sanchez is now the king of our goalkeepers and he's uncontested as our first choice. And that's the way it is. I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. I don't accept it. But at least you can understand from an employee point of view why he's not going to go out and slam the decision makers. My hope is that he isn't actually seriously sitting there thinking that Sanchez is his best first choice goalkeeper. Because if he is, serious questions are being asked of Enzo Maresca's judgment. I think it is the latter. I think it is the former rather than the latter there. But for me, Jorgensen deserves more of a chance, and it's just ridiculous the situation we're in, where such an error-prone goalkeeper still remains the first choice and still is so backed by the club seemingly. And it creates the weird world we're in, and wacky world of Chelsea, where flawed players are defended to the hill whilst actually good players are either sold or we have to recall them halfway through the season because we tried to banish them in the summer. Let's look at Man City. Man City away is still a big and potentially dangerous game for Chelsea, undeniably. I still think most people are not going to have Chelsea as favourites because of our recent form, because we rarely win at the Etihad, and because of the quality of Man City, the quality of their coach, the quality of their players. Even in midweek against PSG, where they completely capitulated, which we'll get to, you look at the talent on that pitch: Ederson in goal, Diaz, Akanji, Vardial, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, Erling Haaland, Jack Grealish came off the bench. Individually brilliant players who on their day can destroy most teams, can do things that a lot of teams crave they could have in their starting lineup. That is still one of the best lineups or best collection, I think, of attacking players you're going to see put out on one pitch for one team in Europe. The problem for City has been that balance issue. No Rodri. And if you watch that PSG game, not only psychologically how weak they were in that second half, being 2-0 up and letting that moment slip, but also just on the ball. I mean, one of the things you kind of know about City, that even at poor moments this season, they're still kind of boring with the ball, but they at least hold the ball. How bad they were with that ball in midweek, I think, was really revealing. Kovacic, who I said this when he was at Chelsea, has a real problem being a defensive shield for your back four. I think that was exposed heavily in midweek when he was basically, at times, it felt like the only central midfielder, defensive midfielder. That's a flawed strategy by City. I think they're paying for it. And just generally, the errors even from Ederson and Vardial, who had a really bad game as well. All round, it was, a concerning performance. And it kind of slightly clouds how we feel about this game, because a week ago, obviously, they went to Ipswich and absolutely battered them. They've beat Leicester. They've beat West Ham. They drew to Brentford and Everton in their last 5 Premier League games. And there is a sense that momentum has shifted. However, that loss and just the overall tendency of the City side to be so unpredictable, to be so fragile at moments, and to give so much to the opposition team makes you think that Chelsea actually have a chance to win this game. And it might not be as clear-cut as City are back and they're going to roll over Chelsea. So I think that's what makes it a weird game. It's not exactly like City have dominated, to a point where you think, yeah, absolutely. This is kind of their first statement game, potentially. This is also the first time Chelsea have faced one of the big teams in a long period of time. And Maresca has been accused of not winning those games. And to be fair, you can't really count Tottenham. We win at Tottenham every year. It's more, this could be a significant moment for Enzo Maresca. Positive or negative, but I think positive, if Chelsea were to win, it would be his biggest win as Chelsea head coach so far. I think given the nature of this season and how it's gone over the past month, it would be huge for him and his players if he won this game. I think Chelsea will get opportunities. I think City's midfield is not good enough to contain and to limit Chelsea's attackers. The big, huge, massive, monumental deciding factor here is whether Chelsea take those opportunities. I think Chelsea are good enough, they have been good enough this season to get themselves into good and dangerous areas. I don't doubt that Chelsea will have enough to create looks and ways to undermine City. It's just whether when that ball gets played into the 6-yard box per se and an opportunity presents itself, do we have the clinical edge to finish? Because unfortunately, it feels like most of our attacking players have kind of dipped in their form over recent weeks. Even on Monday against Wolves, our best players were our defenders. 2 of our goal scorers were centre backs. I think nearly all of them. If Madueke hadn't have literally scored on the line and taken Trev's goal, it would have been 3 defenders scoring the goals. So that in itself is a huge problem. So I'm confident Chelsea will have moments to win the game. I'm just not sure they're going to capitalise. And obviously with the talent that Man City possess and the errors we've seen self-inflicted by the likes of Rob Sanchez, you can never be sure that even if Chelsea have dominant moments, they won't be caught napping at the other end. Let's go into my team. Not Robert Sanchez is kind of my policy for this game, which means obviously Jorgensen. It's a huge call to throw Jorgensen in against Man City, and by no means am I saying that Philip Jorgensen has been outstanding for Chelsea. I'm a firm believer in a meritocracy. I'm a firm believer that Robert Sanchez, he just should not be Chelsea's first choice. And if Jorgensen coming in and failing just further cements the issue Chelsea have in goalkeeper, good, because I think it should surely expose our failed transfer strategy a lot more. However, like Sanchez, it shouldn't just be acceptable that you make that many errors that cost your team and you still play in the first team in big games. I just don't think it sets a great example. I don't think it projects that we're a serious football team. That's just my opinion. Back four, Reece James. Great to be going into a game with Reece James available and fit for this. I just hope he can be a bit more influential in the final third. But I hope that Monday and the Bournemouth game, we're ranking up and sort of racking up his minutes and getting him back to a level of fitness that is decent. And maybe this could be a game against a proactive City team that will give you space on that right-hand side that maybe Reece can have a really dominant display. Obviously, Trev is going to be starting again, I think, on the right, because I think Levi Colwell will be available for this game. That was another thing. Levi, it's kind of unknown whether he's going to start, but I think if he's good to go, I think he'll start this game. And I think it's big that we have Trev and Levi as that back two. Just Levi in terms of a passing point of view, I think from a creative point of view, how especially down that left side, Chelsea could build up and get round City's press. However, I do want to give some credit to Tosin. I thought he had a really dominant performance on Monday, but I think this is a higher level, and I just think Maresca would lean towards Levi as his first choice, as he has all season. Cucurella too, back in the goals, and hopefully he continues that and can be a really fiery and dogged player. I think if Chelsea are going to win this game, I think we'll be looking at Cucurella as a big part of it in terms of small moments throughout the game adding up and, stifling City, winning, fouls, sometimes really soft fouls, putting their players off. I think that is going to be something that Cucurella is going to have to master in this game, because I think it really matters in really tight games that Chelsea have been in. Enzo and Caicedo, I think Enzo as well, another player I think will be ready for this game, and Caicedo too. Both of them need big games. I think from a proactive point of view, Enzo really needs to be, when he gets on the ball, he needs to be threading those passes. He needs to be creating opportunities and maybe even getting on the end of some. And Caicedo too, can he put in one of those really dominant performances we have seen from him this season? I think Noni Madueke will retain his place as a starter for Chelsea. He did help set up the second goal with that left-footed cross. His lack of consistency is still a problem, and I think Maresca is still trying to get onto him about that. However, again, is Neto impressing at the moment? Joao Felix, am I going to trust him for a big game like this? No. So I think that it's most likely Madueke starts here. Cole Palmer has got over maybe that knock he had, but he looks shattered. And I just hope that although we're going to be relying on Palmer in a game like this, and maybe he'll step up against his old club and it would be a great time to do it, he's a big player. He should be stepping on the big occasion. And he's actually been one that's not really stepped up in big games so far this year. So maybe this is the time to do it. But I just hope he isn't relied upon as the only guy. We need a higher level of performance from everyone else, especially in that attacking third. Jadon Sancho too, I think, will start this game. Again, I don't think Neto did much. He crossed the ball a lot. The unfortunate thing, we don't really have a focal point to get on the end of those crosses. And I just think Sancho in this type of game will have the space in transition. I think that's where he can be quite devastating. So I feel like Sancho will play on the left. And Nicholas Jackson too. Knowing Nkunku ain't going to be starting this game again. Joao Felix maybe will start in some capacity. I think it's highly doubtful. Again, it just exposes there needs to be more additions. Now, I know we're talking about potentially one addition from Man United, but I think the addition we need this month is a striker. And time's ticking, but I don't see it happening. So this is the attack, and it seems like the attack and the general team Chelsea are going to stick with for the rest of the season. So they need to hit form. And if they can hit form tomorrow night and Chelsea can get a positive result, it would be huge, I think, for the season. I also think it'd be really damaging for Man City as well. So those are my thoughts on the game. Let me know yours in the comments below. Before we go, I just want to quickly say I am going to be doing a watch-along for the game against Man City on Big Up. Link in the description box below, so go and check it out. Go and sign up for Big Up. It's free to do, free to click on that link, create an account, follow SonOfChelsea, and join me for that watch along where we'll be reacting to whatever happens in the game. But that is it. Follow me across the socials, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.